all the money in the world will be of no use unless you're fit enough, healthy enough to enjoy it. Something happened that got me back into cricket, and there's one gentleman who's responsible for that, and that's Sourav Ganguly. I'd never done this. When Sourav picked me to go for a camp with the Indian cricket team, I hadn't done a day's training. One thing you see in them is that extreme confidence.
So he's a born leader.
He's a born leader. I was India's first strength and conditioning specialist.
So what was your experience like training with top level athlete?
Look, there are two sides to it. One is the physical side, one is the mental side.
Okay.
Physically, a normal food is okay for normal people. If you want to be better than the normal, you've got to supplement. You don't know what your tomorrow is going to be like. You don't know what tomorrow will throw at you. So fitness means being prepared for life's unforeseen circumstances. You can still be good even though you're a vegetarian, not because you're a vegetarian. Losing muscle as you age is something that takes you closer to disease. Maximum bang for your buck is derived from strength training. If you add 5% of muscle in your body compared to your body weight, 5% muscle, you'll cut down the risk of diabetes by 50%. Look, Shabdashi, I didn't get into the line thinking how much money I would make out of it. I want to help people make a healthier society. And the government's incentive to fitness, talking about fitness and health, but I don't see that. These fitness gyms are paying 18% GST, which is the same as bars.
Today, we truly have a very special guest with us, Mr. Ranadeep Moitra, a man who has shaped Indian strength and conditioning, trained some of the biggest legends in sports and overcome challenges that would have broken most people. A former first-class cricketer, Ranadeep Moitra was on his way to greatness when he was suddenly diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, a devastating back condition. And this is something I personally relate to, as I too battled the same condition. But instead of giving up, he fought back through the pain, rebuilt himself, and came back stronger than ever. His resilience didn't just help him recover, it fueled his mission to train and elevate some of the greatest athletes, from Sachin Tendulkar to Sourav Ganguly to Baichung Bhutia and Jeev Milkha Singh. As India's first ever strength and conditioning coach, he did not just change the way elite athletes train, he set new benchmarks in this field. His passion for fitness led him to establish Endorphins, a gym that focuses on building elite level athletes and helping everyday individuals unlock their true potential. But Ranadeep Moitra's impact doesn't stop there. He is also a senior selector for the Cricket Association of Bengal, the CAB, playing a crucial role in shaping the future of cricket in India and Bengal. With deep expertise in strength training, injury prevention, and overall fitness for both athletes and everyday individuals, he is here to break down what's lacking in today's sports, how India can rise in global fitness arena, and the mindset needed to push past limits and excel. This is not just an episode about fitness, it's about resilience, expertise, and a vision for the future of Indian sports. So stay tuned, because this is going to be an insightful and inspiring conversation with the one and only Mr. Ranadeep Moitra. So first of all, thanks a lot for coming in our show. It's an honor and a privilege for us. We'll start off with cricket, which supposedly was your first love, right?
It was not supposedly, it was my first love.
Okay, so from there, how did you branch out into fitness and strength conditioning and all of that?
My cricket career, though I was very young, was going pretty fine.
Okay.
Then at the age of 19, I was diagnosed. I got an attack of very severe and very debilitating back pain.
Back pain.
Yeah, and my cricket stopped because it was so painful.
Okay.
And people couldn't diagnose it, whole lot of tests, carried on. Finally, I was diagnosed with this disease. I could hardly even pronounce it there. It's called ankylosing spondylitis. I was told it's an autoimmune disease and that ये degenerative disease है और मैं cricket नहीं खेल पाऊंगा.
Okay.
Right? और उन दिनों कोई rheumatologist इंडिया में था नहीं. You know, rheumatology is a special branch that studies diseases like this, that treats diseases like this. तो orthopedic surgeon लोग ही treat करते थे. So I was told that, you know, you have to take care of yourself and that hectic lifestyle, like what sports needs, is not for you.
Okay.
And I had no one like me, for example, to advise me or help me out of this. So I tried for a couple of years, finally realized that ye ho nahi raha hai. And I was forced to give up cricket.
So for how long did you play cricket?
Well, by the time, see, it was first diagnosed when I was 19 years old. So I tried for another 2 years off on. You know, और उसके बाद हो नहीं रहा. So about at 21, my cricket career around 21, my cricket career was over.
So it was very short-lived.
Very shortly.
Okay. And after cricket, you
Well,
went to...
फिर मैं सोच रहा, no, I didn't get into it. I mean, how could I transition into fitness when I was actually someone who could barely get out of bed? So fitness was the last thing in my mind.
Okay.
मुझे तब मेरा ये चिंता था कि मुझे एक नौकरी ढूंढना पड़ेगा कि पढ़ाई भी ठीक से नहीं किया. My studies were neglected because of cricket.
Yeah.
Right? So the marks were not great because of cricket. And now I had to look for a job because there was no cricket.
Yeah.
I was lucky I got a very good job. And for the next 12 years of my life, I worked for this tea broking company. And I learned tea broking, tea tasting, tea auctioning. For the next 12 years of my life, I was doing that. Fitness was not even a remote thought in my brain.
Okay. So suddenly after 12 years, what happened?
No. The thing was, I realized that with my condition, if I didn't study up holistic, curative patterns, how to cure myself, there was nobody to help me. Because doctors and physiotherapists around me, and I just felt that they didn't have the knowledge to get me out of the woods. And I had to take responsibility for my own disease. In fact, coincidentally, I read a book called Anatomy of an Illness, but written by Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins' father died of ankylosing spondylitis. And he had this disease. And he wrote this book. And how he kind of I won't use the word cure, but how he learned to manage this disease. That got me thinking. That was really the starting point. Showed me the road, showed me the path that yes, you can fight back. You can get back a normal life. You can get back and live with dignity.
Okay.
And not live this kind of life. वो शुरुआत था.
अच्छा.
वहीं से शुरू हुआ कि चलो रणदीप वापस आने की कोशिश करो. And then one by one, this was like an interest. I read up, I studied, I qualified myself. I went out of the country and got degrees in this line.
Okay.
But I did it merely as a hobby.
Yeah.
I used to like it.
What did you study?
I first studied basic personal training degree just to
familiarize
myself with basic clinical anatomy, clinical exercise physiology. And then I went on to, I was India's first strength and conditioning specialist. Strength and conditioning is a special science, special branch. Trainers who, if you want to treat athletes for performance, and that's a special aspect of fitness. So I studied up that. Then I enrolled with Paul Chek, with Czech Institute, which is in San Diego, and I got my corrective exercise coach degree from there. I also got the degree to be a golf biomechanist. So all these things were going on, but at the same time, I still had a job.
Yeah.
And they were not because I wanted to take it up as a profession. I was just doing it for knowledge. And also the primary thought was, मैं कैसे अच्छी तरह से जी सकूं?
How do I get out of it?
How do I, at least if not get out of it, how do I cope with this? So that was the primary thought. I never even thought that I would have a profession training other people.
Okay. So you studied abroad. You got a degree in which subject?
In 2004, you couldn't do CSCS in India. You couldn't sit for the exam.
What is CLCS?
CSCS is Certified Strength under the National Strength and Conditioning Association of America, NSCA.
All right.
That is the gold standard in strength and conditioning.
Okay.
And recognized all over the world. Even now, when you say that I'm CSCS, that's a degree, so you can use it against your name. Right. From NSCA, it carries a lot of weight. These are the gold credentials in our line. So, I got that done. I studied up for that, and you could you obviously had a good travel. I just happened, I gave it in England, but you could do it, now you can do it in the country. But those days you couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, and then something happened that got me back into cricket. And there's one gentleman who's responsible for that, and that's Sourav Ganguly.
Ah, all right. So, sir, after coming into this strength and fitness and conditioning, you happen to train with some of the top athletes of the country, Sourav Ganguly, Sachin Tendulkar, Baichung Bhutia from football, and Jeev Milkha Singh. So, what was your experience like training with a top level athlete, and how is it different from training other normal athletes?
Look, there are two sides to it. One
Okay.
is the physical side, one is the mental side.
Okay.
Right? Physically, your joints do not know whether you're an athlete or not. They'll behave exactly in the same manner
Okay.
as anybody else's, because joints, by and large,
Okay.
right? For example, a hip joint can only flex 120 to 130 degrees.
All right.
And that's the same across population, whether you're an athlete or not.
Correct.
So the physiology is the same. Where things differ is how you handle an athlete that are under tremendous pressure of performance, right? They have issues within issues. How you get involved in how they handle failure and how they handle fame.
Yeah.
And after a while, when they also feel they get invincible and beyond injuries. So these are the kind of issues that you would get with an athlete, making them realize that tomorrow you can be the best in the world, but injury is not kind on anyone. And very said how they're not, athletes are different. Right. There's no one particular kind, one behavioral pattern that fits. Some are superbly committed, but some you have to push.
All right.
Okay. Some you don't have to do any, like Rahul Dravid, for example. He was a trainer's dream. I mean, he would show up at the same time, never miss a session. He could just self-monitor and self-govern his whole training routine. Not so with everybody else. Some people do need a push, and that's why you're there.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. Of course, athletes are born with a special sense, physical skill, physical talent. So it's easier sometimes to explain to them because they pick up things very, very fast.
Correct.
Because they have a natural physical skill and they can execute it to tasks even a little beyond their chosen sport. But having said that, I've seen just people from a recreational background as well who are not playing are also sometimes you'll find very committed ones there as well. So there's no particular pattern that everybody conforms to, and that's the beauty. You have to know what lock or what key to use to open up each lock, and everybody's lock may be different.
Correct. I'll talk about a very general perception which normal people have about very elite level athletes. Like, for example, when we think of a Sachin Tendulkar or when we think of, say, Lionel Messi, people often have this perception that they are God-gifted athletes, so they don't need to put in that level of hard work. Whereas, whenever we talk about, say, a Virat Kohli or a Cristiano Ronaldo, the perception, the thought which come in people's mind in the first go is they are a trained product. So they work in day in and day out. So that's what makes them different. So they are not God-gifted. Whatever they have developed, it's out of sheer hard work, which the others, like, say, a Messi or a Sachin, they did not have to do. So how true is that?
You must have heard of this. Some people are hugely talented.
Correct.
And some people are known for their dedication and hard work.
Correct.
But you also know what happens when dedication, hard work meets talent. And you can't stop an athlete like that. Some of the ones you mentioned are because they've got both. I mean, very few people can achieve the number one podium and stay there for a significant amount of time with just one quality.
Correct.
You have to have two.
Yeah.
Right? But what we popularly describe as talent, the ability to hit a ball, great timing, it looks very aesthetic. There's much more to talent than that. showing up on time day in and day out, the ability to take knocks, the ability to keep a calm head, think straight. This is also talent under pressure. But you don't normally refer to that as talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mental skill, it is a talent.
Correct.
It is a talent. So when you say talented, it doesn't just mean the ability to kick a football or hit a or a golf shot. There's much more to it.
So you're saying that Sachin Tendulkar, for example, if he put in the same amount of dedication and hard work on the field and in the training sessions and gyms as, say, someone else like Virat Kohli, you're saying that?
Oh yeah, by and large.
Okay.
I mean, in today's modern athlete, and spend hours and hours polishing his skill. Don't even think that they have it easy.
Because in the previous generation, like in my previous generation, the physique of the cricketers or even the footballers, they were not aesthetical in terms of what is considered today's aesthetic standards. So people generally have this perception that today's athletes are fitter than the ones of the previous generation. So is it true, or what's your take on that?
You can't generalize. There were some athletes in the past who were really, really fit. Having said that, you can't compare two athletes of different areas because they don't play the same volume of matches that is played today.
Correct.
And I'm talking about volume. I'm talking about quantity. I'm not talking about quality. And if you put the same amount of quantity on that generation, we don't know what kind of quality would come out. Like I'm reading this book by Greg Chappell, very interesting. He said, and he finally agrees to Don Bradman's view that cricket should not be played for a profession, as a profession. It's a part-time recreation. And if you look at even to the late 70s, right up to the 80s, most of the Australian cricketers were not full-time professionals. They had jobs. Greg Chappell had a job, Ian Chappell had a job. It's only after the 80s that Australian cricket became professional cricket. And if you look at over the years, in terms of consistency and ability, Australia is probably the strongest cricket team. They've had bad rounds over through, but in the last 50 years, the Australian cricket system is sometimes regarded to be the strongest system. And right up to the 80s, it was by and large an amateur system.
All right. Okay. So I'll ask you another question. As a fanboy, since Sourav Ganguly, Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, these people we have grown up watching. So, and you have worked pretty closely with some of them, most of them rather. So, can you share some moments, what goes on inside the brain, or what is the mindset? How are they as individuals, like when they have a test series coming up or when they have a big tournament coming up? So, how do they move around, or what's it like?
Look, when I actually got to see them, sort of I've seen as a young kid, but there are others. They're already established cricketers, so that huge sense of will I make it, will I not be able to make it, that insecurity was not there. But the fear of failure was still there.
Of course.
But one thing you see in them is that extreme confidence. That's where you realize, and that separates the men from the boys. You can fail, but the confidence that you have to back yourself, and if you don't back yourself, nobody else will. That is present in all athletes, all top level athletes. And Sourav kind of embodies that. Sourav oozes confidence. You can be in this room and that's what the team fed off.
Correct.
When you see a leader so confident, not only of himself, but on your ability, for example. And take my case. He was absolutely sure that I could get into this line and be a damn good professional. I wasn't. I'd never done this. When Sourav picked me to go for a camp with the Indian cricket team, I hadn't done a day's training with anybody else, except that he had seen me work. I worked a little bit with him in the gym, training, and he recognized that. And he was confident, and he gave me that confidence, kind of like rubbed off on me. And this guy feels I'm good, I must be good. He's seen the best in the world. And he said that, I've seen the best in the world. And you belong. So that's the thing about this guy.
So he's a born leader. Like
He's a born leader.
Some people just have it, and
Yeah,
you recognize that the moment you come across. Okay. So you said that you've worked with Sourav Ganguly since he was a kid. So you've kind of seen him grow in career and as a human being. So
see, his elder brother was the same group age as me, and we've played all our junior cricket, all our cricket together.
Snehashish Ganguly.
Yeah. So he was still 3 years difference. He was 3 years younger than Snehashish, I think. That was a lot of 3 years, a lot. So I've seen him around, but never really got to get to know him so well, because you didn't hang around with people 3 or 4 years older than you. Right?
Of course.
So I only got to know him once really well, though I did play first-class cricket with him, a few matches, because my cricket stopped very early. But I really got to know him well when he was a skipper of the Indian cricket team.
So, sir, I'll ask you one question. Now, let's get into fitness. What is your definition of fitness?
Look, sometimes people come into the gym or come to me the first time, and they come and tell me, oh, this is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I want this, I want to lose weight, I want strength, and they're not necessarily athletes.
Normal people.
Yeah, this normal people. And they ask me, what about you? What do you think I should be working on? I said, I don't know.
Okay.
All I know, and that's really why people should be fit. You don't know what your tomorrow is going to be like. You don't know what tomorrow will throw at you. Right? So fitness means being prepared for life's unforeseen circumstances, whether it's disease, injury, bad times, epidemic, anything can happen tomorrow. If you're fit, you're ready. So I see fitness as readiness to take on what life and the world throws at you tomorrow.
So it's a combination of both physical and mental.
Absolutely. You have an accident tomorrow, you don't know that. If you're fit, you'll cope with it better. You have a disease tomorrow, God forbid, you get diagnosed with cancer tomorrow. If you're fit, you'll fight it better.
The name of your gym is Endorphins, right?
Yeah.
It's a chain of gym. So why did you start that gym? What came to your mind? Like, what was the philosophy behind starting that gym?
Okay, so you know what endorphins means, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's one of the body's natural pain-killing hormones.
Yeah.
If you look at the chemical structure of endorphins, it's very similar to morphine, which is a painkiller.
Correct.
So endorphins is secreted through the pituitary axis and acts not only as a painkiller but as also a happy hormone.
Correct.
So, and now you know the background why I got into this line. And is I found that I was in pain for most of my life. Right? I have been in pain for most of my life. And I realized that if you could secrete endorphins in your body, you could manage your pain better. That's number one. And that's the reason why I have named it endorphins. And the motive that whatever happened with me in my life early years shouldn't happen to somebody else if I can help it.
Correct. So you gave the name Endorphins?
Yes. Yeah.
And when did you start it?
2003.
It's been more than 20 years. So, sir, we'll come a bit into the Indian versus the global standards when it comes to fitness. Like, what is the key difference between the style of training of an Indian athlete and, say, an international or a global, like a Western athlete, who are conventionally considered physically or mentally more superior than us in most sports, not all? So what's your take on that?
You really believe that? You have to look at some of the Chinese athletes now, sort of smaller, the Korean athletes who are not as big as the ones, and you look at some of the sport like weightlifting, boxing, how well they're doing. So I don't buy this that everything is on size and
physicality.
Yeah, physicality.
Correct.
Right. But having said that, a taller and a larger and a bigger person have certain biomechanical advantages in certain sports which you have to develop power. Right? So, but you can't help.
Yeah.
Your Caucasian is built in a certain way. I find that Asians have better flexibility,
Okay.
have inherent better flexibility than Caucasians. But you refer to the training methodology, but you're catching up on training methodology. It's really it's interesting to say that when I got into cricket, SNC, most of the people that we looked up were people from the West. And then in 2019, 2020, we were looking at selecting the SNC coach of the Indian cricket team, and here was I sitting and interviewing people from all over the world. Finally, we got this guy from New Zealand, but there were South Africans, English, Australians, Kiwis, all of them would. So things in cricket, I know, have changed quite a bit. And the training standards, the training at the top level at least, is comparable to all over the world. The problem is at the bottom level, the schools.
Correct.
Schools in India do not consider it their responsibility to do ground level education in fitness and health, and that's a shame. And that's such a missing link in Australia and other countries. In Australia, for example, it is compulsory to have a dietitian for even nursery schools. And no food is served to nursery children unless a dietitian clears it.
My God, okay.
Unfortunately, schools, I can't even understand how the government can give a license to a school for primary education which doesn't have a playground. It's cruel.
It's basic.
It's cruel to have a school without a playground, and it's basic, it's absolutely essential. But if the government thinking is very much like that, and the government's incentive to fitness, the Prime Minister goes sometimes on a talking about fitness and health, but I don't see that. Fitness gyms are paying 18% GST, which is the same as bars and restaurants. So you're trying to tell us that you're at the same level at bars that serve alcohol. Your utility to society is the same as a bar. During COVID, bars opened before gyms.
Yes.
And health is the only thing that will improve your immunity and get you ready to fight against disease. So the government's idea of health and wellness is completely warped. Look at any of the politicians. Please name me a politician that even looks remotely fit.
Correct.
I've heard, though, that Rahul Gandhi does some fitness work. I don't know whether true or not, but actually can pass as one.
Yeah.
At least it looks decent.
Yeah, but recently,
have you seen some of our politicians, what they even look like? They should be embarrassed and ashamed to even come out in public. And I want this.
So, sir, another question I'll ask you. What do you think is fundamentally wrong with the traditional Indian diet?
See, the bulk of the Indians are vegetarian, right?
Yeah, correct.
The problem with Indian vegetarians is that they don't eat non-veg food, but they also don't eat vegetarian food. They don't eat vegetables.
Okay.
How many times have you gone to a vegetarian house and you're actually looking at vegetables? Rajma, chana, paneer don't count as vegetables. Okay. That's what they're eating, grains all the time. You go anywhere and eat vegetarian food, you're going to see just grains and grains and grains and grains and very little vegetables.
Okay.
Very little greens. I, as a non-vegetarian, eat more vegetables than an average vegetarian. And I see it on a daily basis because I eat a lot of my meals with other vegetarian people. And I see what they're eating.
So you're saying that a person who is predominantly a vegetarian, for him it's difficult to maintain fitness or...
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is please be a vegetarian. If you're calling yourself a vegetarian,
okay,
please eat vegetables.
So what are some of the sources from where a vegetarian person can derive his macros and micros? Just talk about a few. Like what a balanced meal should look like. It's okay if you don't discuss.
See, I'm not great in my. I know that it's very easy if you're a non-vegetarian to get your 21 or 22 vital amino acids, essential amino acids from one food source.
Correct.
The problem with the vegetarian diet is it's possible, but you have to know the right combinations. And all the combinations don't work. Like rice and corn may work. Spinach and something else may work for 21. But to get everything together, No vegetarian source has all the 21 amino acids. So you've got to get the combinations right. And I don't know what the combinations are because this is not my specialty.
All right.
So that makes it difficult for a vegetarian, but not impossible to get all the essentials. So you have to have the knowledge. But having said that, there's a wealth of rich, healthy ingredients inside vegetarian food. So I don't necessarily think vegetarian food is unhealthy. Of course, if you're going to be a power athlete, you're at a disadvantage. You're at a disadvantage with vegetarian food. There's no doubt about it.
But say someone like Virat Kohli, he has become vegetarian for a lot of years, and look at his performance; it has improved.
I'll take that with a pinch of salt.
Like,
I mean, you have to look at his source of where he's getting his vegetarian food from, and I don't think his improvement is because he's eating vegetarian.
okay,
I don't think the two are connected. I don't think it's because. I think it's despite being a vegetarian, he's still good. So what I'm saying is, you can still be good even though you're a vegetarian, not because you're a vegetarian.
Okay. So let's talk a bit about training. Resistance training, it's by and large one of the most popular ways people train, and also you can get a lot done in a relatively short period of time. So what's your take on resistance training? Because I'll say in conventional Indian households, if you go to the gym, if you lift a lot of weights, it's kind of looked down upon. Arey, yeah, don't lift so heavy. It's not good for you. You'll hurt your spine, you'll hurt your joints. So what's your take on resistance training?
So, sometime back I had this discussion with quite a well-known oncologist.
Okay.
Who's obviously treating people with debilitating cancer. And he says that the recovery rate is so poor because Indians are not strong enough. They have very high frailty indexes. Indians have very high frailty indexes.
What is that?
Frail is frailty, like when you talk about muscle in the body and basically lean and you can fat. When you have very low weight of muscles and bones as compared to fat in the body, then you're frail. You've already, and if you're a slightly older population, then you've already suffered from sarcopenia. Yeah, and you've lost muscle. So losing muscle as you age is something that takes you closer to disease
and fatality.
And fatality. So while any form of exercise is useful, yoga, aerobics, Pilates, you name it, every form of exercise is useful, but the maximum bang for your buck is derived from strength training and resistance training. Nothing, and I can stand out saying this, no form of training has so much positive effect on your metabolic health as strength training. Every time every time you add muscle in your body, if you add 5% of muscle in your body compared to your body weight, 5% muscle, you'll cut down the risk of diabetes by 50%.
There you go. That's a lot.
Muscle is the only tissue that actually chews up glucose and leads to sensitivity the insulin. If you're insensitive to insulin, muscle is what is going to make you sensitive to it.
So I'll ask you a very basic question over here. Suppose I'm a novice, I've never been to the gym. How can I build muscle?
Well, the easiest way to build muscle is to put resistance in the path in the direction of the muscle contraction.
This can happen at any age?
It'll happen more in your youth.
Till?
You can develop muscle any age, but up to 30, it's far more effective than after 30. I think once you reach 40, every year you start losing muscle. But if you've been training since your youth, you can actually prevent muscle loss. You can prevent muscle loss.
I've seen this thing mostly among footballers. Like, suppose a person, forget nationally or internationally, if a person used to play football in their younger days, now suppose the person is in their 50s or 60s, their calf muscles look a certain way. And I got with an A, used to play any kind of lower bodies, any sport which used to involve a lot of lower body movements. And then they would say, yeah, I used to play football. So, what is the relation? Like, once you build muscle, does it stay with you forever? Or because certain people, even though when they stop playing the sport, the structure, the anatomy gets shaped a certain way, which remains or which remains intact till their old age. Is it a myth or is it my
No,
perception?
it's not. It's not. What you're referring to?
Okay.
Like you're referring to the calf muscle. The
Yeah,
calf
yeah,
muscle is
the
the highly tonic muscles.
Okay.
Because the calf muscle is so tonic in nature.
What is tonic?
It gets tonic muscles are the ones that are made for. They're the more endurant muscle in the body. They have a lot of blood supply. They have a lot of oxygen flowing in. So as you age, you don't lose the tonic muscles as quickly as you lose the fascic muscles. But I, the same person, if you test some of the fascic muscles, the muscle of the glutes, they'll be weak. Mm-hmm. The muscles of the upper back, they'll be weak.
Okay.
Right, but those are the muscles you need to keep more, and those are the ones that atrophy the fastest.
Atrophy means degeneration.
Yes, degenerate. They lose the muscle fibers. So that's where most of the injuries start. We tend to, the muscle that we need most in our old age are the first ones to go.
Okay. So, sir, I'll ask you another question, another subject rather we'll get into. That a person, because all through my growing up days, also I happen to interact with a lot of people who have knowledge, who have passion when it comes to fitness and coaching. But they are afraid mainly due to A, the society, and B, the perception which still prevails that getting into fitness, there is very less chances you can make a career out of yourself. And even if you make, maybe the pay won't be that much, or there is no stability, there is no certainty. As someone who has been a pioneer of this field and who has so much of vast experience, how would you shape that up?
Look, Shabdashi, I didn't get into the line thinking how much money I would make out of it.
Okay.
For me, it was a calling. I wanted to get into it with a sole motto that what happened to me shouldn't happen to somebody else. I just wanted to share my knowledge. I wanted to help people and do good for people and make India, make our society a healthier, more conscious society. That was all I looked at. I never looked at. So how much money I'm going to make from it. I never looked at that. So I'm a poor advisor in matters where, I'm telling people how commercially successful they will be after becoming, so that's not a question you can ask me. Mm-hmm. But having said that, I think more and more people realizing the value of health and wellness, and they're ready to pay for it.
Correct. Especially nowadays.
Yeah, they value fitness, they value health, they value wellness far more than say 20 to 25 years back, because living is getting more difficult. Staying healthy is getting more and more difficult because the demands that are being made of you, the stresses, the mental stress, the nutritional stress, the physical stress, everything is making your life difficult. And people are realizing that you'll cope with all these things much better if you're fitter.
Yeah.
And they're realizing that all the money in the world will be of no use unless you're fit enough, healthy enough to enjoy it.
Like, I was having this conversation with my wife just a few days back. Previously, I had this perception that staying healthy, staying fit is relatively cheaper. You do not need to invest a lot of money, but slowly and gradually, this perception, it's breaking. And I now say, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I now say that if you want to stay healthy, you need to invest time, dedication, and also a substantial amount of money into the right food and supplements.
But you know what? You'll be saving on those hospital bills.
Correct.
You'll be saving on so much misery. And I can see. So ultimately, in the long run, you're probably better off. We are never grateful for things that don't happen.
Correct.
Say, I'm grateful I did not fall down in the bathroom when I was 75 years old.
Ah.
Because that never happened, right? That never happened because you looked after yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So look at all the things that can happen if you're not fit, and that do not happen because you're fit.
I believe it's kind of a delayed gratification because, like,
Yeah.
suppose if you train for an hour every day, so 365 hours a year, roughly, even if it's 300. So if you train for 20 years, just count the number of hours you're training for. So those thousands and thousands of hours, it's definitely...
That's like money put away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll give you a certain kind of fruit. So what message would you like to give to an aspiring fitness enthusiast who wants to come to this field, who probably has a lot of stigma due to family or the society? What message, a very crisp message, you would like to give to the younger boys?
Firstly, get yourself educated.
Okay.
Certify yourself, read up a lot of books,
Mm-hmm.
understand your philosophy of training. Yeah. Secondly, get your hands dirty. Do not expect anyone to do something that you can't do yourself. If you expect somebody to run a 400 meters inside a minute, you must learn to do it yourself. If you expect somebody to deadlift 100 kilos, you have to do it yourself before him. So you've got to know the way, you've got to show the way, right? You got to know it, you got to show it, and keep going that way. So first thing is that you've got to do it yourself. Otherwise, you will never get the respect in this line, particularly if you want to work in sports. If you want respect, if you want recognition, you have to do all the dirty work first, and people will respect you for that.
So what can a rough roadmap look like for a young guy who, suppose, has passed his, say, 12th, and after that, okay, I want to pursue career into fitness. Like for this widespread engineering and doctor medical, we know that there is a definite roadmap. You give a joint entrance, and then you get into an engineering college, you get placements, and blah blah blah. So in this field, what can a rough roadmap look like?
So the tough part about this field is that you've got to be academically plus, and you've got to be physically plus. But if you're not physically plus, don't even try the academics, but it'll get you nowhere unless you want to be a research student, right? Or you want to deal in a therapeutic environment. You can still help people, but that's the therapeutic. But if you want to be a strength and conditioning coach, you've got to be physically at a different level.
Epitome.
Otherwise you'll just be very ordinary. You'll be like the rest of the people.
Okay, now I'll get to a very controversial subject, which is supplementation. Because why I say it's controversial, because a lot of people, even celebrities, I have heard personally, some say that don't take supplements because supplements, natural food is enough. You don't need supplements, and especially people from the past generation, because my relatives and people who come to my place, they usually see the big whey protein ka dabbas and all of that, and they say that what are you doing to yourself? You'll be in deep trouble. You know what happened to that guy? And there are all these myths which are still persisting in our society. So would you say that normal food is enough, or is there any need for specific type and kind of supplementation?
A normal food is okay for normal people. If you want to be better than the normal, you've got to supplement.
Would you explain?
If your demands from your body exceed or what do you call normal, right? Then you've got to supplement. You've got to give it something extra, right? You've got to give it that extra protein that your body needs. You've got to give it the extra fats that your body needs. You've got to give it training fuel, a certain kind of carbohydrate food. For example, some of the supplements that I know work, and I take it, like vitamin C, vitamin D, D3, E, magnesium, zinc. These are essential substances. I mean, they can't hurt. Creatine is something that is proven to be helpful
very
across
helpful.
Population, particularly in older population. And research clearly shows that it improves their somatic health along with physical health. Right? Even for normal functioning of the human body, there is
Somatic means something to do with
to the brain.
Okay,
So if normal functioning, going to the market, coming back, walking to the post office, walking down, just for normal human functions, you need about 3 to 4 grams of creatine. And the 3 to 4 grams of creatine, for skeletal muscle to perform normally.
Yeah.
To get that, you would probably have to eat 3 or 4 kgs of meat.
My God. It's not possible.
It's not possible. So the easiest and the simple thing is to supplement. When you're supplementing, maybe the creatine levels in your kidney might be temporarily elevated.
Rise up, yeah.
But they'll come down anyway, and that's not a cause for worry.
Okay.
They're just showing the creatine. It's not going to damage your kidneys. No way. If your kidneys are healthy.
So
Right.
how do you know?
The funny part is the same people who will down about 3 or 4 whiskeys at night.
Yeah.
And will debate about the whether you should take creatine or not. This is ridiculous.
Just a couple of days back, I don't know, I was shocked seeing this shots on YouTube that junk food, like the French fries and burgers, the junk food is more harmful for your body than cigarettes. So, is it true?
I don't know. I have no idea. The idea is try to avoid both of them.
Okay.
But I tell you what, a person who exercises but maybe smokes a little, drinks a little, eats junk food, has a higher chance of surviving than a person who doesn't have any of these, who doesn't smoke, who doesn't drink, who doesn't eat junk food, but doesn't exercise. And I've seen that, and that's my personal experience.
So exercise, you're saying, counters a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you should go ahead and you smoke and drink and you should eat junk food, but exercise has that quality to ride over many ills in protecting you. So it has that quality.
So conventionally, I'll ask you this might sound very novice to you, but still I'm going to ask you that leaner people usually are considered healthier than people who are having a broad midsection. So how true is that?
By and large, it is true. If you look at percentage, it is true. When you see somebody lean, right, it also means that he or she has less visceral fat. Okay. If fat shows on top, the subcutaneous fat, is very likely that the viscera is also surrounded with fat. It's very likely because patterns usually are like that. Yeah. That's the normal pattern. And, fat around the viscera is not a very healthy thing. So typically, if you look at averages, a leaner person will have less fat around the viscera. So it's definitely has less life risk than a person who has more fat.
Okay. But it's a very confusing thing. Why, I'll tell you. Because my height, it's 6 feet. And I weigh somewhere around 76, 77 right now. I consulted with a person who is having a lot of knowledge in fitness. He said that, no, you're a bit overweight. But I said that my body fat percentage is around 13 and I'm having visible abs. So technically I'm overweight. But physically, since I've been doing strength and resistance training for over a decade, 12, 13 years, maybe I've put on muscles and the muscles are having that amount of weight. So it's kind of justified. What is your take?
You had to explain this to him. You had to actually explain to him.
Yeah.
Oh, then he's not worth speaking to.
Oh. Okay.
He's obviously, when he said he has knowledge about fitness, he doesn't have enough knowledge about fitness. You're speaking to the wrong person about fitness.
Okay. Sir, I'll ask you another question. This is about body weight. Okay. Like two persons of the same height and also the same weight can look completely very different, right? Because one is having higher fat percentage and lower muscles and the other vice versa, right? So, but usually amongst people who are not so aware, when you lose weight, I'm losing a lot of weight. I'm just having salads the entire day, just having a few cucumbers and lettuce and I'm losing weight. So of course, it's not healthy. So can you just roughly discuss about how weight is not at all a deciding factor in overall health and fitness? How the weighing scale is a myth?
I'll try to put it very simply for lay people, for laymen.
Yeah.
If you need to lose 10 kgs and you successfully manage to lose 10 kilos, a typical pattern would be you will end up losing about 3 to 4 kilos of muscle. Okay? But you lost 6 to 7 kilos of fat. This is an acceptable ratio. However, if you lose 10 kilos and you lose 6 to 7 kilos of muscle and only 3 to 4 kgs of fat, then it's not worth it, because in terms of body fat percentage, you're probably fatter than before in terms of percentages, even after losing 10 kilos. And that's a disastrous situation. This is a situation where we refer to people like that as skinny fat.
Yeah.
You're losing weight, but you're ending up with more body fat as a percentage than before. Right? So this is why strength training is important. Strength training will ensure that you don't lose too much weight, because muscle weighs more than fat.
Correct.
Now, there are some dietitians practicing here that charge you for the amount of weight they make you in kgs. And they don't like strength training because if the patient or if the person is exercising, they will not lose so much weight.
Correct.
They lose, but that's not a happy situation with the dietitians. So don't ever get fooled into this. It's not the weight that matters. It's the percentage of body fat that you're losing that will give your body more tone.
Technically, how much muscle it's possible to put on naturally with strength training and a very high protein diet?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I've never really researched this. But going the other way, I know that I would like my athletes to be, I would want the men to be below 15, at least, above 15, and the women around 20, 22. That's healthy. I mean, while I see a lot of athletes who are as low as 8 or 9, but up to 15 is fine. Beyond 15 will affect their performance.
It's just true for athletes or normal?
Yeah, I wouldn't like it's anybody. It's well, with other people, it's not the performance so much; it's more health. But for every say every 1% above 15, I think it's going to have a negative impact on your health.
I'll share with you a very personal story. In the last 6 months, I underwent...
Well, I'll just interrupt.
Sure.
That doesn't mean for every 1% that you drop below 15 that your health is improving. I don't mean that. And you don't have to be an 8% or 10% to be healthy. But the other way around certainly counts. You don't want to be 20, 21%. With every increase, your health will certainly be affected.
What needs to be the fat percentage for a person to visibly show the abs?
I think about 12-ish starts showing, and below 10 it really gets prominent.
Because you're having a six-pack year-round.
No.
Yeah, but your pictures and everywhere, like we are all seeing you with the six-pack.
I wish.
So nowadays we see this very popular diet trends all across the world, like veganism, carnivore diet, keto diet, and all of that. So do you have any inclination towards any one of those in particular, or do you think those are scientific?
Look, all of them work.
Okay.
They work for about 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, so they all work in that short period of time. None of them can be sustained. Right? So if you want to try any of them, just to give your body a shock for a very short period of time, knowing that you're going to change, they're all right. But I wouldn't advise anybody to persist with them for a very long time, because then you're depriving your body of certain essential nutrients.
So for a short period of time, it's
they are
beneficial.
right if you need to, if you really need it. Yeah, to give you the jump start and you're struggling, you need to get off, and you haven't been able to get the result, all of them will work. They'll shock your body, and each one is based on certain principles, that are effective. But they all have their shortcomings when practiced over a longer period of time. Only sensible, sustainable dietary habits is what's going to keep you healthy, lean, and fit over a longer period of time.
All right. Okay, sir, we'll come to a subject which is personal and which is also common between both of us. That is the ankylosing spondylitis. Because first, I'll share my story with you. Maybe not couple of years back, 3 to 4 years back, I was having this insane back pain, and that aggravated. Mainly the thoracic spine got affected, and that aggravated because for a few months I was completely off training. Few months, like probably 6 to 8 months, I was complete, and before that I was training regularly. I couldn't identify the cause. I asked a lot of people. They said maybe it was arising due to gas. Some said that maybe improper sleeping postures. Some said that maybe you're having some kind of muscle imbalance. I went to a lot of people, physiotherapists as well. They seem to do some therapies, some chiropractic as well. I went, but it did not help, and it was so bad that at night I could not sleep. I was very recently married then, like 3 years back. I told my wife in the middle of the night, I used to wake up and tell her to do some stretching, and please, can you maneuver my back a certain way? I cannot sleep. It's getting very difficult for me. So it was a daily occurring for me, and it used to make my life hell. And after that, I went to this orthopedic doctor. He was a surgeon. I went to him and I told him about my condition. He gave me a test to do, which is HLA-B27. He said that if it comes positive, then it's a bad thing. If it's negative, then need not be worried. We'll have to choose another course of treatment. So unfortunately, it came positive, and he said that it is a condition that you're born with. It cannot be fully cured, but it can be managed with proper dietary habits and proper mobility and stretching exercises. And I started doing it, and also I did research on my own. I started doing day in and day out researches about what causes this, what is inflammation, what are the foods which you should be having to keep inflammation at bay so that this condition doesn't aggravate. And I found the antidote. So ankylosing spondylitis, did I pronounce it right? What is it, and how does it affect an individual, and how did it affect you? Because you've already talked in the previous part of the podcast about.
I've said it's an autoimmune disease. There's very little that you can do about it in terms, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people take it as if it's all the downhill all the way.
Correct.
Now with modern research, more rheumatologists getting into the play, can be manageable. For example, I have managed it with something called immunosuppressant injections over the last 15 years.
Okay.
Immunosuppressant injections were not even available in our country when I was first diagnosed with it. So, and they were very, very expensive even if they were available. So, yes, what it does is, but they're still very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is an inflammatory disease that happens outside the joint, at the site of the tendon, and it inflames the joints. And over a period of time, there's calcification, bone growth. Ultimately, the joints fuse. So you restrict your mobility, and your joints are severely affected. Sometimes the joints get so badly affected that they fracture.
My God.
Because there's no movement. You fall down, you can fracture. So these are rare cases. I'm lucky not to have gone to that. It hasn't happened to me. You are even luckier that it hasn't really affected your lower back, because all the cases that I know, particularly young people, all start at the sacroiliac joint. In your case, it started at the thoracic joint. So as it's moved from the bottom of your spine up, you probably didn't feel it because it wasn't intense enough. So it is very intensive with very different people. It's not the same it's like any other disease, like cancer. You have grade 1, grade 2 level, So, but yeah, it can be, at the worst case, it can be hugely debilitating, even life-threatening. And if you're lucky and it's only a mild case, then you get easily. That's it.
Okay, because there's a lot of misconceptions and wrong perceptions when it comes to this. A lot of people say, I went to a lot of physiotherapists before, they said that, no, you shouldn't be training, you don't go to the gym. While the doctor who worked for me, he said that, no, you continue doing all the things which you're doing. Rather, if you
So
stop doing it.
logically, if you look at this disease, and you know your joints are going to degenerate, you want to make the muscles around it really strong.
Correct.
To support the joint, right? The stronger your muscles are, your tendons are, your ligaments are, the better they'll protect your joint. And here you're looking at a disease that is going to degenerate and ultimately destroy your joint. So you're better off making your muscular system really strong and supportive. It's just logic.
So we are coming towards the end of this conversation. So we'll have a very quick fire round. I'll ask you some questions. You'll say whether it's a myth or is it a reality. Okay. So eating late at night causes fat gain.
Myth.
Okay. Why?
You're going to ask me why as well.
Yeah, just a one line.
You get fat if you have, at the end of the day, if your balance sheet, you've got more calories than you burn. It has nothing to do with when you're eating. Yes, it's in the morning when your insulin levels are high, when your sugar levels are high, when all the hormones level, that's not a good time to eat. Okay. But there's no problem with eating late at night.
Okay. You need to have 5 to 6 meals a day to gain muscle.
Myth.
Okay. Muscle can be gained with fewer meals?
Again, it comes to how much calories you need.
Okay.
If you can have those, if you have that in couple of meals, it's easier to get that from 4 to 5 meals, but it's not a healthy thing to have 4 to 5 meals.
Oh.
Because as human beings, as hunter-gatherers, our bodies are not meant to eat more than once or twice. When you kill, you had a shikar, you eat. And then you wait for your next shikar. You don't know where the next available meal is going to come from. That's natural.
Correct. Okay. Here's the next one. Women shouldn't be lifting heavy. It will affect them and even their next generation.
Rubbish.
So women should be lifting?
Yeah.
Heavy?
What do you mean heavy? If a person can lift it more than 6 times, it's not heavy. What can be training, past history, ensures that the weight that was heavy 10 years back is not heavy anymore. So you can never call anything heavy. It's a very individual thing. Like, is it warm or is it cold? What are we at? 22, 23 degrees? What is it now? What is it?
23.
Cold or if you get a Russian here, he'll say it's warm. He wants it at 15, 16 degrees. So you can't use the word heavy. You got to numerically define what it means. A weight is heavy if you haven't been able to lift it more than 5 times. A weight is moderate if it makes you fail between 6 to 12 reps. A weight is light if you can lift it more than 12 times.
Okay. Here's another one. Spot reduction of fat is possible.
No, it's not possible.
So
when you lose fat, you have no choice of where you lose your fat. There's only one area of your body that decides where the fat will be used, and that's your liver. Your liver decides. Nobody else decides.
Okay. If you stop exercise or movement, suppose a dancer or a person who goes to the gym, if he stops doing that, he will gain fat.
Well, he will, because look at the extra calories that he was burning earlier, and he's not burning. So he must find a newer method to burn that calories. He'll be all right. She'll be all right then.
Okay. You shouldn't be having egg yolks. It's not healthy for you.
Egg yolks is one of the healthiest foods.
Egg yolks?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a limit, like more than once?
You know, there are burn victims in the hospital, or somebody who suffered the brain damage, their diets. Any dietitian will tell you that they're given about 20 to 30 eggs with the full yolks. So that obviously means that yolks have a great contribution in building new tissue in the body. And that the fact that cholesterol is unhealthy for you, is dangerous for you, is a total myth as well. And that's been created just to sell statins.
My God. So as a healthy individual, if I have, say, 10 full eggs a day, it's perfectly normal?
You're right. If you can burn those 10 eggs, you're right. I mean, it's not dangerous.
Okay. All right.
So each 10 eggs will give you, 60 grams of protein?
10 eggs, roughly 6 per
So
egg.
how much of protein do you eat in a day?
Me?
Yeah.
I eat a lot of protein. I eat.
Like how much?
Right now, since
No,
I'm gaining.
because I need to know in the context of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my thing.
So how much protein do you have?
200 plus, 200
So if you
to
get 60
220.
grams of protein from egg in your total 200 grams, it's all right.
Right now I'm having 200, but when I'm
150?
150.
Yeah, so the rest can come from chicken, meat,
I don't have chicken
fish,
meat.
whatever.
Yeah,
Fish.
I
No,
do have.
they can. So, but it's dangerous if you're having 120 grams of protein and 100 grams is coming from egg.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So there you understand, these questions are very loaded. You can have 10 eggs, but if 90% of protein is coming from eggs, then it's not a happy situation.
Basically, you need to
Yeah,
diversify
even
the
the
sources.
protein, the sources of protein need to balance.
Correct.
And no one source should be giving more than, I think, 30% or 40% of protein.
Okay. And that includes whey protein, supplements, everything.
No one source. So if you're having 100 grams of protein, for instance, and you're getting it from meat, you're getting it from eggs, you're getting a mix. So each one should not have contributed more than 30%. That gives you some balance.
Okay.
And the more sources you can use, the healthier it is.
Okay.
The more varied the source of protein is, right?
The better.
The better.
Okay. Roughly, just give me a one-line answer to this because we'll get on to the next segment. As a healthy individual, how much protein should you be consuming? Like if you're not having any pre-existing conditions or any special.
I think 25% of your diet should come
from protein.
From protein, at least. Below 25% is a problem.
No, like for a general person, say a person is 60 kilos. Okay. So how much protein should that person be?
No, it's not to do with the 60 kilos. It's how much muscle
mass is that.
So if you have higher muscle mass that needs maintaining, you need to increase the protein intake. So you can't answer this in general.
All right. Okay. Here's another one. So walking is sufficient. It's a complete exercise.
Walking is not even an exercise in my book.
It's not?
Yeah. I mean, if you're saying that, and for to me, something should qualify for an exercise that is going to be challenging after a while. For example, when you're doing deadlifts, the 11th rep is more challenging than the 10th rep.
Correct.
If you're doing jumps, right, the 5th jump is more challenging than the 4th jump. If you take a skipping rope and you skip, your 500th repetition is more challenging than the 499th repetition.
Correct.
But are you telling me when a person walks, that is 1000th step is more challenging than the 900th step? It's not. So there's no progression. For something to qualify an exercise, there should be a progressive resistance. That means your tissues, your body is adapting to get better at what it's doing. There's no adaptation when you're walking. However, when you talk to an older person who has mobility issues, who has issues both metabolic and in the joints, for them walking could also be a challenge. They're trying to overcome some difficulty, some issue to walk. For them, walking is great for them.
Okay.
Mind you, if you look at the mental side, going for a walk in the open, listen to the birds chirping, watch nature, that's fantastic because there are benefits to the body happening beyond just physical stress. There's physical repair. I mean, walking out in beautiful nature is great physical repair, great mental repair. So you've got to look at health in a more holistic
way.
But when you look at physical exercise, I don't rate walking very highly.
So, sir, we'll conclude this podcast, but just a couple of more general questions. So, if there's one advice you would like to give to someone who wants to stay fit year-round, what advice would it be?
I would want you to follow the 4 doctors every single day of your life.
Which are?
Which is Dr. Diet, Dr. Happiness, Dr. Quiet. And if you've got all these things
Dr. Quiet
in place, Dr. Quiet stands for meditation, reading, listening to music, walking in nature, just quiet as you with your thoughts. And if you've got all these three things in place, then also welcome Dr. Movement. But if you don't have all these three things and you get Dr. Movement in your life, you'll destroy your body.
Okay. Okay, sir. So it's been a pleasure connecting with you and having this podcast with you. We are really privileged. I'm sure the viewers and the audience will have a lot to learn from this session. So thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks.
lovely being here.
So that was an insightful conversation with Ranadeep Moitra. If you found it valuable, like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to press the bell icon so that you never miss an episode. Also, drop a comment below and let us know your biggest takeaway. This is Shoptorshi, and till the next time, keep thinking deep.